You say that I've forgotten the book, but I don't even know the book.
All right, everyone, welcome back for the much delayed Verity review by yours truly, Tian Beth. Just giving our thoughts on the book Verity. We did not do the read along with this one. We're just doing our summing thoughts at the end for our wonderful audience, wonderful listeners who are very much curious what we have to say about Verity by Colleen Hoover.
Oh boy, let me tell you. This Dawn Book Club forced making me read 2 Sarah J. Masses, and I barely escape Crown of Midnight by the skin of my teeth. And then my dear beloved cousin is like, oh baby, have I got a book for you? Colleen Hoover. Well, my arm went number.
Yeah, and I had no idea who Colleen Hoover was. Like, maybe I'd heard of her in passing, but it wasn't like a name that triggered anything in my head. So I heard about the book Verity, a manuscript, some intrigue, and I was like, ooh, I'm interested. I'm curious. And then Tia was just like...
The only thing I can think of is our main character, gnawing on the headboard like a beaver, apparently Verity too. Yes, I've been knowing about this book. Anyways, that's what I was Beth was like, oh, this seems pretty interesting. I was actively thinking about them being beavers, just gnawing on that thing. That thing is a headboard.
All right. Well... let's talk about some of our thoughts from the book.
Oh, I don't even have my notes with me. Man, go first.
Okay. So my first thought, I'm going to take this as my objective, as objective as I can be on the writing of the book. I thought was pretty good. It was definitely engaging for me. I could be taken into wondering what the characters were doing. However, I'll get into some more of that for maybe why I was so engaged in a little bit, some of my not objective feelings on the book. Anyway, so I feel like it was set up fairly well. Characters were interesting. I could see how past events impacted what characters did in the narrative, both in the current day of the book and in the manuscript, so be it, that Verity wrote. Maybe we should introduce the characters, just in case anyone doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so our main character is Lowen.
Lowen, yeah.
Yeah, Lowen. Like a lion, not spelt like a lion, but Lowen. I don't know how to spell it. We listened to it. So Lowen's our main character. She's a novelist, I
think it's spelled how it sounds. I think it's Lowen. Lowen.
Oh, maybe so.
The point is we don't know how to spell it. We listened to this book.
Yeah. So she's a novelist. What? Horror, suspense?
Horror, I thought.
Must be horror, yeah.
Mystery. I don't remember.
Psychological thriller mystery, probably. She's an author.
I was under the impression that this book, the book Verity itself, was the same genre that Lowen wrote.
Yeah,
that's
I think
the impression I got.
So like psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's a novelist, main character.
Lowen's a real estate novelist.
She's a real estate novelist. Never had time for a wife.
Or husband or anyone at that.
Then we have Jeremy?
Jeremy, okay. No, Jeremy.
Jeremy, no. I was calling him the wrong thing in the beginning. I thought his name was George. Straight up thought the book said George like 5 times.
George not found.
Jeremy, who is the husband of the eponymous Verity, who is also a novelist, suspense, mystery, psychological thriller novelist, who is no longer able to finish the series she was commissioned to write. So her agent and estate and her husband, Jeremy, are looking for someone who can fill her footsteps, as it were, fill her shoes, and finish the series for her. We have Lowen's agent.
Whose name I don't remember. I think it's Carter.
It could be Carter.
But I really don't remember.
Yeah, I have no idea. He's there in the beginning. It's kind of helpful. I was going to bring him up in my thoughts, so that's why I had to introduce everybody, but I don't know his name. Then we have Verity and Jeremy's children, 3 children, who... Chasten, Harper,
and
Crew. Chasten and Harper are, or I should say were, twins. They're dead in the events of the main story. Crew is the only one who's left. Verity herself is alive, but apparently in a bit of a... Who is it? Oh, I used to know the word for it. Anyways, not quite catatonic, but she has had brain injury from an accident, as it were. So I feel like that's our main cast. There's some supporting characters in the background, but really the main cast is Lowen, Verity, and Jeremy. Verity we mostly get to know through her manuscript that Lowen is reading. It appears to be kind of a autobiography of sorts for Verity, which Lowen reads to get inside her head, to try and figure out how she writes, because she's such a good writer, which is really funny to have a book about writers, because, like, woo, you got to be careful what you say in a book about writers, because you're given ammunition for us to judge your book.
Yeah. Okay,
so there's an introduction to our main cast. So I thought it was pretty engaging. The writing, you could get into the characters. One part that I really liked is in the beginning we find out that Lowen used to be in a romantic and sexual relationship with her agent. And I was prepared to be like, oh gosh, I can see why Tia doesn't like this book. But then I was surprised by the twist, bit of a twist, pretty early on, where it's like, oh yeah, it was pretty quickly discovered during the course of their relationship that the agent was actually in love with Lowen's character that she wrote. And they weren't really compatible for a long-term relationship. So I was surprised by that. I liked that. And knowing that this book is based around a manuscript, I was like, oh, is this seeding the ground for a parasocial relationship conversation in this book? So that got me. I was really interested in that potential, and I kept paying attention to all the things we're seeing, because as Verity, as Lowen goes along reading Verity's manuscript and getting an inside peek at Verity's life with Jeremy, it's like, bing, 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 this is parasocial relationship area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, that's great. I'm expecting this to be commentary on parasocial relationships. I wanna see how Lowen is thinking she has a connection with Jeremy that she doesn't actually have. Also, I was hoping Jeremy would be the villain in the beginning. Like, I was stoked. But then I started going, ooh, parasocial relationship is good instead. So overall, I think based simply on writing, I would rate this book a 4 out of 5, potentially. However, that is not what I rate this book for some really, really big, concerning, well, let's not say concerning, but some reasons that I find personally quite repulsive. Yeah. So I will not rate a book with these things as 4 stars for me.
You know who won't give you a bait and switch rating, though? This girl, Tia. I started listening to, we got the audiobook, right, from the library. I started listening to this book by myself, and I didn't like it. I was like, there's a death scene right at the middle, which really kind of put me off. Right at the beginning, like right at the beginning. And I guess it isn't that graphic, but like they use one descriptor by saying how like, basically a guy walks into traffic and he's hit by a car and like the car runs over him. And it says like how his Lowen heard the pop of his skull of like the tire driving over it. That like really put me off for whatever reason. That's one step too far. Anyway, so because I had my preconceived notion of the book, and I was not having it while I was listening to it by myself. Also, I think I got to one of the sex scenes, And I was like, man, this sex scene, I'm so not into this sex scene. Why am I listening to smut that I'm not even into?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then Beth and I worked our schedules out a little bit more, and she caught up to where I was, and then we just kind of pounded the book out in a couple of days.
Careful with that word.
Anyways, so it was much more manageable for me with another person to listen to. Like having it in my earbuds, listening was just unpleasant to me. I rated, like, to my surprise, like, this is definitely stuff I didn't like, and Beth will go into more depth about things we didn't like because we disliked similar things. But obviously there's a lot of stuff I didn't like. I was shocked to see that I rated it a 3 stars. Like, it was fine. Could have been better, could have been worse, but like, it wasn't as bad as the YouTube reviews made it out to be. Because, I like watching book video. I like watching booktube every once in a while. So I'd seen way before this book club started, I'd seen reviews about Verity. So it just wasn't as bad as I was expecting it. And maybe that's why I rated it 3, to be like, this is so much better than I thought it would be. But I won't give you a bait and switch. I gave it a solid 3. Shocked. I'm flabbergasted that a Hoover book got on 3 stars. Hopefully I'll never ever have to test another Hoover book, because I don't want to. I simply don't want to. Anyways, so that's my overall feelings on it. I'll probably pipe in a few other times, but I'll let Beth take it away.
Yeah, after reading this book, I can say that I, too, never plan to read another Colleen Hoover book, nor do I have any intention of spending any money on anything related to Colleen Hoover. Because despite the engagingness of the writing and how very much I was pulled into the story, I think... So despite how I was pulled in, this book has some really big problems in my eyes, and that is its rampant pro-life and constrictive Christian conservative heteronormative views on women. And when I say that this book had these themes, you might go, okay, but you're probably reading into it a bit much because that's something you care about and you're very judgy. Here's my strongest evidence that really made me go at the first instance in this book where I went, oh my goodness, this is really bad. In chapter 14, I think it was, I don't have my notes in front of me, we hear in Verity's manuscript the fact that after she attempted to do an at-home abortion, it didn't work out right and things didn't go well. So then we have Lowen in what is considered the real world of this book, in which, anything that is stated as fact in this part of the story is taken as fact. And in a story that is written not in some crazy fantasy world, even if it was a crazy fantasy world, I would have problems with this.
But it's written to be like modern, 2019 or something. Mm-hmm. It's designed modern. It's in America, though in Vermont.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be in the real world.
Yeah. So Lowen, after reading about this attempted at-home abortion, she's very upset about this. Like, oh, how could a mother ever do this? And she mentions going online and Googling some stuff and discovering, oh, attempted physical abortions can result in serious birth defects in the baby that is then born later on. You'll see terrible things, and how, oh, it's really lucky that there was just a little scar on who was it?
I don't remember Harper. I think
one
it's
of the kids, Harper or someone. One of the kids only had a little scar. It could have been so much worse. She could have been missing limbs. And I heard that, and bing, 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 my radar went off. It did not pass the sniff test. For those of you who may not know, I am in the medical profession, and so things like that get me going, what are you talking about? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. That sounds like you're confusing a physical abortion with maybe a drug that can cause birth defects, which there are plenty that can cause that. Some, admittedly, are abortogenic drugs that can be used for abortion that, if they weren't successful, could potentially cause birth defects. I found one paper about that. I say I found one paper because I did a literature review for this question because I was very much motivated to prove that this was wrong. Completely and wholly wrong. And I can tell you, after doing a literature review of PubMed, which is a database that is focused towards clinically applicable medical and other clinically applicable journals. So the kind of place where you would expect to find reports on what one might expect to see if there was an unsuccessful attempted physical abortion. I found nothing. The only things that came up related to scars and birth defects was lots of papers talking about the risks of having a pregnancy implant next to a previous cesarean section scar. Cesarean section scar. Lots of papers on that. Lots of papers on concerns about access to healthcare for women in various parts of the world. Lots of papers on things to do with female genital mutilation. Lots of stuff along those lines. I tried various searches, various keywords, found nothing. I looked at Google Scholar, which is very, very broad, and I found nothing. The only place that I found anything saying that a physical abortion that was unsuccessful will result in terrible deformities in the unborn child was a website from Canada that is well known for producing biased, agenda-driven research targeting pro-life audiences. That was the only website I found. I also found websites talking about that website and how unreliable and terrible it is. So, that was proof enough for me to know that Colleen Hoover put that in that book because she has a pro-life agenda, most likely. Supposedly she could have been very mistaken, but then her editors should have been like, oh, that's a big statement, let's check. So I'm also, pretty annoyed that got in there. We're not living in a time and place, and really we're never living in a time and place where that sort of misinformation can just be casually put in a book and then be written off as, oh, it was fiction. Maybe it was true in that fictional world. No, you put that in that book that is directed towards a young woman to read and seed those thoughts in because you think it's true. And it's not. It is objectively not true. That's my rant on the biggest reason why I dislike this book. And if I wasn't trying to be somewhat objective with my scaling, I would probably give this book a 1 just because of that, because it's terrible, and I'm really mad at that. And we haven't even gotten into the reductive views on women that is rampant throughout this book.
We'll be getting into it.
We will be. I need a breather, though. Yeah. I have gotten a little wound up just from talking about it.
Yeah. So, going off a little bit on whether Colleen Hoover is pro-life. Again, I haven't read, put it up front, I haven't read any other Colleen Hoover books. I have watched lots of videos about, of people talking about other Hoover books who have read the books. Let's see, I know I've done November 9th it starts with us, it ends with us. And
Those two different books?
Mm-hmm. And I think there's one more. But I think it ends with us. Anyways, I can't give you like receipts to be like, in this book it says this specifically. But from my perception, based on these other reviews from other Colleen Hoover books, it does seem like the woman always keeps the child. It doesn't matter if she wants the child initially. It doesn't matter if she was sexually assaulted by the love interest, which leads to the child. Or maybe assaulted is too strong. It might be more of coercion. It doesn't matter if like she's keeping the child for the sake of the father when the father is literally abusive towards her, which I believe does happen in It Ends With Us. Oh. I think I could be wrong. I haven't read the books myself. But just from hearing reviews of her other books, I do not believe that Verity would be an outlier with Hoover's beliefs on pro-life versus pro-choice. And more conservative, well, to me, they read more conservative roles that women should do or should be in. Again, I haven't read them, but that's the perception I have from other reviews that I've watched over the years.
Yeah. I think I found some Reddit threads about that with the name of the book. So you can find it if you want to go search. Well, we're not going to do that right now.
Yeah.
We got other things to talk about. So let's move on to woman in Verity.
Women.
So woman and motherhood are a running theme through like almost every chapter of this book. We have Lowen's relationship with her own mother, which was very turbulent and likely highly impacted by mental health concerns with her mother, who is dead in the book, recently dead. We have Verity's relationship with her children, both her daughters and her son.
Do we see a little bit of Verity's relationship with her mom or only with her dad? Okay.
We see Verity's relationship with her mom. Again, not good.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mother-daughter relationships and expressions of roles in motherhood that woman should fill. Some of the largest aspects of this are first really evident in how Lowen is responding to Verity's manuscript. In the manuscript, Verity is portrays herself very negatively.
Yeah, the manuscript is supposed to be like a all secrets told autobiography of Verity's.
Yeah.
Where she like says, I'm going, like, you'll be shocked by how like terrible things get. I'm not going to hide anything. Like, this is an autobiography of a writer who like will show it. It's supposed to be a tell-all.
Yeah.
Autobiography.
So we'll get like part of a chapter from the manuscript, and then we'll get Verity's reaction in the next chapter. Lowen's reaction in the next chapter. And very often Lowen is quite negative about Verity's views on motherhood, how she doesn't want to have a child, how she's scared of pregnancy ruining her body. And
also like ruining her relationship with Jeremy, her relationship with writing. Well, maybe not writing, but
because she wasn't.
I don't remember
yet,
the
right?
No. They.
Oh, that's right.
She was writing by the time they get pregnant. The point is, I don't remember if it affects writing, but it does. Like, her relationship with Jeremy before and after the kids is a pretty pivotal, a pretty prominent part of the manuscript.
Yeah, and Lowen is very much thinking, how terrible of a person is she to be having these thoughts, to not be wanting her child, her unborn children, her, pregnancy, how terrible it is that she wants an abortion. And admittedly, there's some things that Verity does that very much are endangerment to herself. It's very clear that she is likely struggling with mental health. And particularly, it's very clear to me, and this is part of why I found it so engaging, and after realizing that Colleen Hoover is very likely pro-life and conservative Christian value believer, whether or not she's Christian. I'm not so sure this is what was intended, but for me, when I was listening to the manuscripts, it was like, oh, I can see how Verity is struggling with these things because she does not have access to abortion as health care. She wasn't raised in a place that believes that's okay, so she can't bring herself to access it. She doesn't even think that it's a possibility to go to a clinic and receive professional help. So that's part of why I found it so engaging, but now I'm realizing potentially that's not what the author was trying to do. So we see a lot of Lowen saying how terrible Verity is because of her views on being a mother. And it's very, very much Verity is vilified through the manuscript.
For sure.
For sure. It's very clear that the manuscript is here to vilify, at least I feel like it's here to vilify Verity and justify Lowen's growing obsession relationship, parasocial relationship. I'm not sure if that's what the book is actually getting at, but
no, but it's definitely solving parasocial.
It's serving parasocial relationship with Jeremy.
Yeah. For those who, well, in the book, Jeremy and Lowen end up having an affair, right? While Verity is still in the house, she's still ill and everything. And I definitely do think that the vilification of Verity is supposed to be, I don't think virtue signaling is the word, but I'm under the impression that showing how terrible Verity is saying she's so terrible, it's okay that Jeremy's having an affair when his wife is terribly ill. It's he can't get it from her, so it's okay that he's getting it from someone else when it turns out Verity's so wicked.
So there's a lot of focus on that in the book. And the fact that not living up to wanting a child, to wanting to be a good mother, to having maternal instinct, as it were, is used to vilify a character very dramatically and very firmly without any meaningful context given to Verity's personal situation and why she is struggling with these things. Just really, really makes the book very much have these concerning themes that are shown in this is not good. Well, not that it's not good. It's taking these themes and saying these are terrible things. It's horrible if a woman is like this.
Yeah.
When in reality, there's nothing wrong with a woman not wanting children. There's nothing wrong with a woman being concerned of how pregnancy is going to alter her life. There's nothing wrong with anybody, whether or not you're a woman, having these concerns.
Yeah.
And the book doesn't address that. Yes, maybe someone should talk to a therapist with these concerns and maybe decide whether or not it's something they want to work on. Why do they have these concerns? Or if it's, no, this is something that I never want to change necessarily. Therapy's great, people. That's also something I was concerned the book was going to bad talk, which it didn't really. It could have done better with the therapy, but therapy was brought up in it and not instantly smacked down.
Yeah.
So kudos to Colleen Hoover for that, I guess.
No kudos.
No kudos. That's right. It is the bare minimum. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on Verity by Colleen Hoover. That was really pretty gung-ho for the possibility of parasocial relationships going on in the books, and instead I was left with just oodles of propaganda. So, yeah, 3 out of 5 stars, trying to be somewhat objective with the quality of the writing.
Yeah. Man, what bugged me a lot is So I haven't read, like, this is my first, like, thriller or suspense that I've ever paid attention to. I know my parents, like, we would do road trips, our parents would listen to those, but, like, I was 9, you know. I got freaked out by the monsters, and that's about it. But it seems to me that, and maybe it's just because I'm being picky or whatever, but still, it's not like a picky mindset is an invalid way to, like, read this book.
Yeah.
It was really annoying and frustrating to me how Lowen would just read the manuscript instead of doing her job of, like, looking through Verity's notes to try to get to a place information-wise to continue the series she's being paid to finish up writing. And I know that if she didn't read the manuscript, the book wouldn't happen. But the fact that she was spending so much time on the manuscript damaged the suspension of belief to me. The fact that people were just taking this manuscript, which is written by a known fiction author who writes villainous perspectives and is really good at, like, getting people engaged, and say, oh yes, I haven't even finished this manuscript, but I know it's 100% real. This is true. The author has never lied ever. This is true. Like, when she says it's an autobiography, I know for sure it's an autobiography and not just a work of fiction, potentially, from a fiction writer, you know? So that was annoying to me. To me, I just didn't believe how Lowen was taking the biography as fact.
Yeah.
Also, there's this whole thing with Lowen and Jeremy deciding to kill Verity because of her crime. Mm-hmm. Like, because in the manuscript, Verity says how she goes through how she murdered one of her daughters.
Yeah.
And so they use that as a basis for killing Verity.
Yeah.
And to me, it just seems like they should have called the police.
Yeah.
As far as I know, Verity's a catatonic, more or less. Mm-hmm. So it's not like she's gonna go anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, lock the doors and call the police, you know? So that was really unbelievable to me. The fact that no one, like, I don't know what's in the air. I don't know what's drifting down from Maine. Like, what's in the air in Vermont, I don't know. But they should have just called the police. Again.
They should have had someone cut the phone lines. They could have had a storm happen earlier in the book, which would have been so contrived. It would have been like, oh, all right.
Of course, there's a storm, knock down the cell towers or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, bad reception, so you have to use a landline.
Yeah. But they didn't even do that. So that was really annoying to me and took me out of the atmosphere of the book.
And, you know, it's also like, man, how dumb are these characters if they're acting like this is fiction? No, like this is actually 100% real. Willing to go to the point to kill someone over a manuscript.
Yeah, and going along with that, there's a bit of a try-out a twist at the end of the book to try and make it appear that, actually Verity was a perfectly good person based on a letter she wrote trying to absolve herself, right? Mm-hmm. And in it, Verity is like, see, the manuscript I wrote, that was just an evil retelling of my life as a way to practice being an author who can write bad people, compelling bad people, which straight up, the manuscript was compelling, but potentially not for the reasons the author wanted. And in the letter she writes, she's like, here, let me give you a demonstration. She writes a scene from her villainous character POV, talking about how she's going to a meeting with her editor and her husband comes with him and she's so annoyed that he's on his phone the whole time and not paying attention. Which, straight up, if your partner comes with you to an important meeting to support you and then is just on their damn phone the entire meeting, yeah, you can be upset about that, especially if you support your spouse in what they do.
Yeah.
The book then went on, the letter then went on to say, now here's the actual scene that played out. And Verity was just so over the top with how much she loved her husband and how good it was that he came along to this important meeting, even if he didn't listen. It's just all that matters was that he was there. And it's just like, this fawning, this bowing down to the man
Yeah.
to give respect to him, and we're doing the bare minimum, not really even quite doing the bare minimum, and how, oh, he deserves praise because he lets you do something, basically. So that was something I forgot to bring up earlier, so I have to bring it up now.
There's a whole lot in this book of, like, Mish making Jomi seem like he's all that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little hard in the manuscript. Verity talks about, like, how much she loves having sex with Jomi and how amazing he is in bed. That, I'm not sure, like, did she actually hate having sex with Jomi in real life? You know?
That's an interesting subject.
So, and that was, what am I saying? From the manuscript, I don't know how good Jomi was in bed, but the manuscript, which was supposed to take as true for the majority of the book, without question, projects Jomi as this great guy, an absolute god in bed, when Lone,
Who loves kids.
so supportive.
Happy to be a stay-at-home
When
spouse.
Lone has sex with Jomi, it also mentions, like, how amazing he is and, like, how pleasurable he is. Anyways, the point is, maybe it's also because I'm not that into men. I don't think it's just that, though, if I'm being
It's not just that.
honest. It just seems like surely Jomi isn't all that. It really seemed like it was like hyping Jomi up, putting him on this big pedestal, which maybe I'm sure it had a reason for doing it. But it just seems like, to me, he isn't all that. Like, there was no way the dick is that good. So, okay, so I'm going to talk more, spoilers all for everything. So it turns out before the book began, Jomi read the manuscript. Shortly after his daughter drowned in a lake, which in the manuscript, Verity said she caused her to drown.
Yeah.
And this is, again, after one of the other daughter died as a complete accident from an allergy incident.
Yeah.
So they've, like, lost 2 kids or whatever. Basically, Jomi reads the manuscript, and one thing leads to another, and he tries to frame Verity's death by driving her car into a tree with her in the passenger seat, and then staging it to look like an accident. I'll talk about that later. And then, okay, so that happens. Then we get to this letter where Verity...
After the accident, that's what makes Verity disabled. In a catatonic state, apparently.
More or less, yeah. Brain damage?
Brain damage, yeah. Traumatic brain injury.
Traumatic brain damage. That, like, basically sets off the entire event of the book, because she can't write that Lone is hired. Later on, at the end of the book, when we have this letter where Verity is trying to absolve herself, she talks about how, like, she forgives Jomi, and she, like, loves him, that he's still trying to protect their children. She's like, Jomi is it doesn't matter that Jomi jumped the gun and tried to murder me. He was doing it because he loves our children, and he's such a good man because of that. Bullshit. I genuinely don't think you should look at a man who read a scrap of paper and decided to do murder over it and say, this is a good man for my children. He was trying to protect my children. So again, the book is putting so much glory on Jomi, and it just isn't that one. I really don't think it's that one. I watched, back to the car crash, I watched a lot of Forensic Files as a kid. So, I'm no expert, but I like to think that I have a good enough approximation about how car scenes work and how it looks, whether you're in the passenger seat versus the front seat, and whether whatever side you're in, whether that hit the tree or not, that the investigation on the car crash should have been like, I don't know if Verity was in the front seat or not.
It's backwater Vermont. Medical examiner's just some doctor who can't practice anymore.
Yeah. And, like, I think she was supposed to be tied up, she was tied up in the car.
Something like that.
When he drove it into the tree. So she should have had evidence of being bound and struggling as well. The point is, and stuff with the police, the stuff with attempted murders and the actual murder of Verity, because Lowen and Jomi do actually murder her for real in the book. It just doesn't seem like, unless I'm just supposed to believe that any investigative force is just rife with incompetence, it doesn't seem like Jomi and Lowen should have gotten away with it, which, as far as we know, they did.
Yeah.
It really, and that's another thing that took me out of the book. It's like, if you start strangling someone, like severely throttling them with like their eyes all bulging and everything, and then you force them to throw up and make them asphyxiate on their vomit, a medical examiner should be able to tell that they were strangled, at least partially, from the burst eye vessels, which might also happen from choking, but also like the actual trauma around the neck from strangulation. Oh, anyways, it just really annoyed me that they got away with it and there wasn't any suspicion about Verity's death.
Yeah.
Or the car crash.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe the forensic world is in fact rife with this sort of incompetence. In which case, remember that, people. Remember that.
Remember what?
They're rife with incompetence.
Yeah.
Get a second opinion.
That's where this abortion take online came from, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that sums up our feelings on Verity, parasocial relationships, and propaganda quite nicely.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the next book we read, or do another video for the next book we read?
Let's give people just a brief idea of what you can expect next from us.
So, in our upcoming future, we'll have another video similar in format to this one, talking about the Song of Achilles. And then after that, hopefully it will be shorter. I don't think we'll have as much to say about A Song of Achilles.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll be reading Freckles by Gene Stratton Porter. Hopefully we'll be able to do a kind of chapter by chapter video, just like we did with Crown of Midnight.
Yeah. One of the benefits about Freckles, it's in the public domain now, so absolutely no personal concerns about reading an entire book on YouTube. We don't even have to give any commentary.
I'm sure you will be getting commentary from us, though.
Yeah.
At least a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Freckles. It's something that our mom read to us ages ago, and I'm looking forward to finally reading a book for book club with really solid writing, really beautiful writing. Gene Stratton Porter she was a novelist in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and she was a naturalist. She loved the Limberlost swamp of Indiana, and so Freckles and some of her other books are set there, and you can tell her love for the land in the area. It really shows. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So we have that coming up. There's been talk that we might have to read another Sarah J. Maas book, but I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to put my foot down and tell to my cousin, who's like the president of the book club, who's like, if you ever loved me, don't make me read Our File, please.
Regardless of how many people think that one more book will convince us.
Yeah, one more. Well, you'll really like this character. Respectfully, book club member, every time you said I will like something from Sarah J. Maas, I have not liked it. Respectfully.
This video isn't about Sarah J. Maas.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Borrowing worries from the future.
Oh, baby! So, expect another short video about one book all at once. And then kind of a nice little turnout of chapters of Freckles.
Yep.
Okay.
So long, everybody.
Bye-bye.